Mr. Phillips, Representative Phillips.
Thank you, Chairwoman Bass and Ranking Member Smith, for hosting a terribly important subcommittee hearing. And to our witnesses, gratitude to all of you. We're all well aware, too aware, that America witnessed the fragility of its own democracy recently, and even the challenges in the United States of holding free and fair elections in which people have faith. And we all must recommit to improving democracy both here and abroad. And I want to start my questioning relative to Ethiopia. I have a significant diaspora in the community I represent in Minnesota, and I am terribly, terribly concerned about what I'm seeing in Tigray, as we're all aware. Horrified is a better word. The reports of atrocities against civilians being committed by both the Amhara and Eritrean forces are jarring. And I'm terribly concerned about the well-being of the Oromo prisoners who are on the hunger strike, protesting their detention, harassment of their family, their supporters, and their exclusion from participating in the upcoming June elections. So the closing of political space is terribly worrisome, to say the least. So, Mr. Omondi, we're all aware of Secretary of State Blinken's recent calls to withdraw troops from Tigray. But what more can the U.S. do? What more should the U.S. do to address these dangerous and acute issues in the Tigray region?
Thank you very much for that question. The situation in Ethiopia is very complex, but I think one of the underlying issues that we will need to consider is the level of engagement necessary to continue with the Ethiopian authorities to address these particular issues. In the last few days, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, for instance, has announced steps to allow humanitarian workers, international NGOs, and independent media to Tigray. And I think that's one area where the U.S. can continue working with the Ethiopian authorities to ensure in particular that there is a full, independent, and accurate picture of the humanitarian needs and conditions and human rights conditions in Tigray. Because representative, there has been a lot of information about those atrocities, and ensuring that we get a full and accurate picture, I think, will be the first step to being able to determine how to address those particular ones. I think in the context of the elections, it is equally important. Well, before I get to the elections, in terms of the politicians who've been arrested, as Ranking Member Smith asked, it is certain that there's been a lot of regression in tensions since the murder of the musician Hachalu Hundessa some time back. And a lot of the fallout can be traced to that particular incident and the social unrest that followed. The Prime Minister has also in the recent past met with opposition leaders. And I do think encouraging him to keep meeting with opposition leaders to agree on the broad framework and consensus and conditions that will allow them to participate in the election will be important, because as mentioned, the current hunger strike and so on and so forth are really creating tensions in Ethiopia.
And sir, if I might ask, what are, from your perspective, what is the likelihood, what are the prospects for free and fair elections this June in Ethiopia?
I think there is, and I said it, that there is a number of issues that will need to be addressed, that the election in itself will not be able to resolve and put Ethiopia back on its path of democratic transition. I do see the imperative for peace and security for the election to proceed, but this broader context is deeply worrying, and without addressing it, I do think that there will be significant questions that we will all ask ourselves about the quality of that election. It does go back to an earlier point that was also raised about whether elections should proceed in such circumstances. I think Congressman Bass asked that particular question. It is important, in my view, that where decisions are made to postpone elections in such context, that comes as a result of broad-based, inclusive, open dialogue with all the major political actors, because I do think there were significant opportunities missed, not just in the context of Ethiopia, but also in Somalia, to be able to get that consensus, to be able to move forward with the election process.
Well, thank you, Mr. Omondi. I see my time's about to expire, so Madam Chair, I'll yield back.